This evening's discourse is from the final chapter of the Gita, titled You Shall Attain Me. This is verse 23 and 24. Krishna says, that action is sattvic, which is divinely inspired, performed with complete non-attachment, without any sense of likes or dislikes, and without any desire for its fruits. Explanation by Swami Ananda ji. At this point, we come to an explanation of the actual relationship of the three gunas to activity, rather than discussing the influences of the gunas on activity. Sattvic action is motivated by superconscious inspiration. It is performed without attachment, without likes or dislikes, and without desire for any fruits accruing from it. Once again, it should be pointed out that this is not being offered as new information, but is simply a review of what has been said at length previously. The more sattvic an action, the greater the sense of ease that accompanies it. On the other hand, the more rajasic it is, the greater the sense of effort, because ego consciousness cuts off higher power and inspiration, giving one the illusion that he must solve every problem and complete every labor by himself alone.
Good evening, friends. Welcome. It's a joy to be here, and I hope I can be here much more in the coming months and years. I will be living part-time in Mumbai, and that means part-time in Pune, probably, and so I'll see all of you quite a bit more. It's wonderful to see how beautiful the center has come up, and it's wonderful to have the Christmas ornaments and the altars, very beautiful, and I haven't been here since the dedication, I think, but anyway, it's looking very nice. I wanted to play that excerpt from Swamiji to bring his vibration here for Christmas, and it was so beautiful what he was saying. Tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about seva, by the way, and how Swamiji was saying to remain in the self. This is what Master said, remain in the self. When you think about serving and remaining in the self, you might come up with, how is that possible? And with all the duties and activities we have, it can be difficult at times. But if we can remain inside, which means what? Meditate first. Do your energization. It was wonderful coming and see everybody energizing first. Do your chanting. Do your japa. Do your healing prayers. Do your spiritual study. And if you do these first, seek ye first the kingdom of God, as Jesus said. If you do these first, then you begin to feel centered in the self. Maybe you see light, the spiritual eye. Maybe you feel currents of energy moving in your spine. Maybe you feel upward vibration in the spine. Maybe you hear the inner sounds, the chakras, you hear the Om. Maybe you feel the energy in the upper chakras. This is what it means to remain in the self, to dive in deep regularly and to have that touch of light, we could say, as we meditate. And then you can serve properly. We all probably remember the story of the lady who Master was doing dishes. I mean, he was cooking, and she was doing the dishes, trying to keep up with him. And so he would cook something, and then she would wash it, and then he'd cook something else and throw the pot over, and she would wash, and then he did that, and finally she couldn't keep up with him. She thought, what a messy cook. But he was teaching her to remain in the self in everything that you do. And that other lady in the same chapter, how Master gave her things to do, and but then he said, but you work too hard. And she said, okay, Master, I'll try not to work so hard. Then he'd give her more. And he said, but you're working too hard. And she said, okay, Master, what am I supposed to do? I try not to work so hard. He kept giving her more and more. Do you ever feel this way in your life? More and more to do. And finally, she said, Master, why don't we change the word work for seva, for service? And he said, now you've understood. All your life you've been thinking work, 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 meaning outward, outward, outward. When our real seva comes from remaining in the self and letting that pour into everything that we do. And as I'm coming down to Mumbai, it's interesting because everyone has a different opinion, and it's nice, but my opinions are coming from them. So people have said, well, why are you going there? That's more from the northern side. Why would you go there? And it rains a lot there. Yeah, it rains. It's flooding. Yeah, it floods there. It's humid. Yeah, it gets humid. I bet it gets humid, and on and on. But I feel in myself that it's the right thing to do. And then people say, well, what about you? You just got your nice apartment. It's all to yourself. I said, yeah, I've got a nice apartment. You've only moved into there just now. And isn't it so? As soon as you kind of think everything is just right, Master says, now, time to go out. I remember a couple from Ananda, I won't mention their names, they may be watching, but they had just gotten married. And, it's so happy and beautiful wedding and beautiful home and beautiful car and everything. And then Swamiji says, now, I think they weren't married 2 weeks before he said, would you like to come to India and help me? And they were like, we just got married. And so we think that because of the outward situations, we can't remain in the self. But that's the test of the devotee, to be balanced, whatever the situation is. And I think a beautiful testimony of that is our work in Vrindavan. Sri Kartikeyanji just went there 2 days back, and he just raved about the work there. And he said they're serving with such dedication, so much love, and so much of Master's vibrations and Swamiji's spirit. And I don't know how many of you know, but we've had a work there for the past just 2.5 years. We're serving 4,000 widows, a couple of hundred in our 8 care homes that we have. And what's so wonderful is the spirit of the staff. Now, the program is a success because of the spirit of the staff. And the staff all energize every day. They know Hong Sa, practice Hong Sa rather. They do the healing techniques. They do yoga postures. They teach these to the widows. And then, as they get centered, then they go out and they serve. And it was wonderful. A few times back, I try to go every month and support it. And one time I went, and Manjunath, who's running that program, he said, well, Dhyanaji, one person wants to take discipleship this time. I said, oh, how wonderful. So there was about a room this big, full of this many people. I think there are 30 or so people there, and a little fewer than here. And I said, okay, well, who is the person? He says, well, I'll find out. I'll tell him to come and talk with you. So he got the fellow, and he was sitting in the front, and he said, so he said, it's this fellow. So I said, okay, please come forward. And then I said, if there's anybody else, I just by chance said, if there's anybody else who would like to take the discipleship, you can come forward. And they were all on the floor, and the people started inching up towards the altar. And I said, now who is it? I said, now raise your hand if you want to take the discipleship. And all the hands went up. Beautiful. 30 people came up and took discipleship. And that's why they're serving with so much love, serving from their center, serving from Master's vibrations, being in tune. And what a huge difference that's making there. I went around to some of the places. We also serve what Manjunath said is 100% of the widows in Vrindavan, either in our care homes or we have a staff of double that number, of over double, 70 people. They go door to door to give whatever is needed. And I went door to door with them. That wasn't easy. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, but to see that, we're so blessed and privileged. And people are complaining all the time. Go to Vrindavan, spend some time there. But what you see is in these little places where there's 3 ladies and a little hut as big as like a half of this room in here, this big. When they see the Ananda people come, the Yogananda people come, and they're around town, we have a very good name there. They always say, look for the people in blue. They'll help you, because our people all wear blue jackets, and they'll help you. So when they see our people coming with so much wonderful energy, the faces of those ladies, the widows, just light up. And they were on the streets begging before. They told me these stories, and one lady was living in a box. I went there and saw her home box, and she couldn't even sit up in that box. And we said, Jyotishan Devi and I and others went, and we said, well, what can we do to help you? And you know what she said? I just want a bigger box. We said, well, we have a home. You can come and live with us. And she said, no, I don't, because she didn't trust us. What if she just, what will happen to our box? So she didn't come. And this time I went and I saw her in the home. I said, you came. So she took her a little while, but she came. But we got her a bigger box before she came to live with us. And then when she came to live with us, well, what happened to the box? The smaller box, she told us. We said, well, what happened? She says, oh, now I rent that box. So she was making a living from renting the box. And now the bigger box, she had 2 rentals. But wonderful, she was making a little extra money from the rental of the boxes. But all of this saying that just the vibrations of Master there, so wonderful, but it comes from inside. And if we can learn that, the beautiful story of the man carrying the wood, that just gave everything to God. He wasn't worried about, well, am I going to have enough money to do it, or my space going to be big enough, or what about if it rains and it's going to pour? And I remember when we went to Africa. I went there for Ananda. I was living in Italy, and Swamiji phoned us, and I took the call. It was me and another person went there, and he said 3 words: go to Africa. He didn't say how, with what, how long, what to do, who's in Africa. He just says, go to Africa. And now why did he do that? He expected us to grow from it. From seva, you grow. From figuring it out, you grow. from earning the money to go, you grow, like this beautiful center. And in Mumbai, the other wonderful news is we're right off going to look for a center. Starting on Saturday, we have a group coming to meet about the center. And so, we can't think, oh, it's got to be enormous. Just do what you can do. But start and do something. And so that man who would just be serving his master, he never allowed this fellow to come into the satsangs and all. And he said, you just carry the wood. And the man kept carrying, and he just obeyed. And then at a certain point, one day some of his hair got caught in the wood. And he looks and he says, it's gray. Have you ever noticed that about yourself? It's gray. I've been carrying this wood all these years, and what have I gotten from it? And he started to weep, and his guru runs out and he says, oh, if one tear from such a one as you would touch the earth, there would be famine for 7 years. And this man was just serving from his center for his guru. And this is why we're here, just service from the center and to serve as best as we can to all. I want to close with a very beautiful story I got from a blog of Devi Ji's. It's on service. She says here, this is a beautiful story about a devotee. Let's call him Ram Das, whose heart was pure, guileless, and filled with devotion for God. Every morning at the end of his meditation, he would pray, Lord, whenever you call me to forsake this world, at that moment I will come. Though God never called, Ram Das still offered this heartfelt prayer daily. Time passed, and he and his wife became filled with great joy, awaiting the birth of their first child. But such is the nature of Maya's alternating waves of joy and sorrow, that his happiness turned to grief when his wife died in childbirth. As he took the helpless baby in his arms, Ram Das was filled with parental love and the desire to protect this tiny motherless child. Just at that moment, God broke his silence and called to him, Ram Das, now is the time for you to leave all and come to me. With eyes filled with tears, Ram Das replied, Lord, you know that you are my heart's first love, and I will come, but I also have a human heart. Please reassure me that this child will be cared for. In response, God said to him, place the infant in a basket and leave it along the road outside the village. Then wait behind a tree and see what happens. Ram Das did as God instructed him, and after a while, he heard the sound of many horses approaching. It was the queen of the realm and her entourage en route to a nearby city. At the sound of the horses, the infant awoke from his slumber and began to cry. Hearing the wailing, the queen stopped the entourage and instructed one of her attendants to bring the baby to her. Ram Das watched in amazement as the queen took his child in her arms and said, I will raise this poor abandoned baby as my own. He dedicated the rest of his life to seeking God. His heart reassured, Ram Das quietly walked away into the forest to dedicate his life to God alone. Let's meditate for a moment.